Castle's school. No, this hardship brought a more foreboding change of climate. 2 years after the WHO's pronouncement on March 11, 2020, many companies had still not returned their employees to the office. Some, like my husband's company, have sold their headquarters and opted for a remote future, making the boundaries between home and work permanently porous. This is to say nothing of those who've lost lives and livelihoods in the last 2 years, those for whom the virus turned life over like a drawer and emptied it with hurricane force. For as much as we want to imagine the pandemic as something past, as something to forget, I fear it will be long with us, as trauma always is. Our bodies have a knack for remembering. In the year of our Lord 2020, time wasn't just lived, it was suffered. And this is how Moses describes the experience of time in Psalm 90. The years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80, yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. Under virus conditions, life has felt suddenly brief, precarious. I'm reminded of another large-scale catastrophe of this century and the chapel talk Lisa Beamer gave at Wheaton College in 2016, 15 years after the death of her husband Todd on September 11, 2001. Our family was on Wheaton's campus to celebrate my and Ryan's 20th reunion, and the 7 of us were at the back of the auditorium, sitting shoulder to shoulder in what might have been the very same row where 2 decades earlier I'd recognized my freshman roommate from the picture she'd mailed to me. "Do you not know? Do you not hear?" Lisa read aloud from Isaiah 40. "It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers." For her text that morning, she had chosen a strange passage from the prophet that begins with pleas for comfort, then slips into darker musings about mortality. I could picture that swarm of humanity as she read aloud, the throb and thrum of them scurrying after their important, microscopic business. Her voice caught. "Scarcely are they planted, scarcely sown, scarcely has their stem taken root in the earth when he blows on them, and they wither, and the tempest carries them off like stubble." I remembered the day when Manhattan's Towers of Babel fell, the city disappearing in plumes of smoke, the sky raining the ticker tape of global commerce. I remember when United Flight 93 ran aground somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania. How brief it is, time. How very, very small our stature. Playing busy like a fiddle. As early as April 2020, a debate raged about the responsibilities of those of us turned safely inside during this global storm. For those time-privileged enough to find their calendars suddenly cleared, what should we do with all this newfound time? Should we perfect our baking skills, learn another language, launch a business, organize the pantry and the photo albums? The New York Times regularly featured exactly these sorts of ideas, and I did feel better when, on a spring Saturday, we hung garage shelving to organize bikes, sports equipment, and snow shovels. But in her article for Wired, writer Lori Penny took issue with those lucky enough to be able to shelter in place, who were using that time to launch podcast and personal projects and life hack their way to some cargo cult pastiche of normality. In her essay, Penny defiantly opposed the idea that we were most optimized when we were most productive. Productivity, she argued, is not a synonym for health or for safety or for sanity. How shall we stay productive, Penny asked, when the world is going to hell? It was a question to which I felt particularly attuned. Busy has long been the most recognizable version of me. In college, I snagged a copy of Disciplines of the Beautiful Woman from my freshman roommate's bookshelf. The book was a study in spiritual practices like prayer, Bible study, and regular church attendance. It was also a collection of productivity hacks.